welcome everyone. So today I'll be doing the hook tutorial CAD. So to begin, I'm gonna just give a fair warning. There's a lot of circles and tangents involved in this sketch and CAD. So if you need, feel free to pause the video or just go back a few seconds. So to begin, I'll be pretty much using the front plane as my sketch plane. So first I'm gonna work my way up from the hook all the way around to the tip. So first I'm gonna do this new sketch on the front plane. So as you can see, the first measurement is 16 inches. So I'm just gonna create a line that is 16 inches on the origin. And this is not centered. Yeah. Alright, so the dimension is just the shortcut, or you can put the dimension button up there. Alright, so this is 16 inches, so if I want this to be centered, I can use the midpoint constraint. So midpoint pretty much, obviously is the midpoint for the origin, so this is 8 inches and this is 8 inches. So that is pretty much the first line. Then now I need to work my way towards the two lines that are 45 degrees angled up. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a line. I'm going to dimension it via a shortcut, and then 45 degrees. And then for this, I'm just going to mirror it instead of actually creating it again, so I don't have to create another line. So just create a mirror line, so in this case it would be the right plane. And click select your line, and now you can create the top line. And then for this, I'm going to make it 1 inch apart from the base of the 16 inch. You can work with it whatever you want, but I'm just going to work with that. So there you have it. So that's the first part. Now I'm going to make the rectangle. So rectangle is just G, or corner rectangle. So select the corner, and then you can kind of drag it down, and you should be able to dimension it. So D, and this is 15 inches down. So 15, enter. So that's the top part. So now what I want to do for this kind of cylinder part, so this actually has 2 circles in it that are 4 inches in diameter plus a rectangle. So in this case, I'm going to actually make 2 circles first. First being 1 and 2. And these don't have to be perfectly aligned. I'm going to make them equal. So in order to make them equal, you can use the equal constraint, or just set them equal to E. So now they're equal. So I'm going to set 1 to 4. So now they're equal. Alright, so now in order to create the lines, I'm going to use a line tangent to both of them. So they're not tangent yet, but I will use the tangent constraint. Tangent. And it's also T as well. And make sure to get all 4 points. Alright, so now to attach this part, I'm going to create a line directly down the middle. And this, I'm going to make this a construction line because I don't want a part of this sketch. It's just a reference line. So what I can do with this, I can also use the midpoint as well. So if you click the line, the top line of the rectangle you just made, to that point on the construction line, it will point to like that. And it looks like mine is a little off. Also to note that this is 24 inches in diameter, because technically this is actually a circle. So this is why the symbol is a 0 with a slash in it. So 24, and I think mine is a little off, so I'm getting coincident. Yeah. So So if that happens, all you have to do is just coincident the two lines together, and that should work. Alright, so now what we just did was the 24-inch diameter circle with the two 4-inch diameter circles at the end. Alright, so that is pretty much the top part. So what we're going to do next is work our way down. But first I want to create actually more construction lines to actually help me reference these circles. So if you can see, there's these two blue lines that kind of create a cross, and then one right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one long one, and these don't have to be a specific measurement or because they're just construction lines, they're not actually part of the sketch. So I'm just going to make this one for now and then change it. You can click Q, type Q, and it changes construction line. And then I'm going to make another line perpendicular. And notice that this line is 36 inches apart from the bottom of the top. So just dimension that, 36 inches. And that is pretty much the blue construction line, as you can see right here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to work my way up, down, and pretty much around. So as you can see, these R's are pretty much radius. So in this case, these were all circles, but once you trim them down, they become radius. So in this case, with R4, the diameter is 8. So circle, to create circle, you can click the circle button up here, or just click C. And make sure the circle is tangent to the circle up here we just made. And they're the same diameter as well. So you can create this equal as well, so E. Alright, and just to make sure it's tangent, I'm just going to click it one more time. Alright, so now we have that, and I'm going to work my way down to this whole pretty much center circle, which is R15, which means I have a diameter of 30 inches. So C for a circle, and make sure it's 30 diameter. Change it to 30. Alright, so now that you have that, you're gonna want to now create this R22 to connect the 30 and the 4. So now you can also create another circle. It just doesn't have to be specific because we're going to tangent it to the two circles. So diameter is 44 in this case because R22. So tangent to this 30 diameter. Alright, so that's pretty much this curve right here. So now, so we don't want these excess lines, right? So we only want the curve. So what we can do is pretty much use the trim, or M, to kind of cut these away. And make sure that you're cutting the right ones. You don't actually cut the wrong ones. So for this 30, I'm going to keep it for now because I need to use it as a reference point for the other circles. But I'm just going to cut that one for now. So I'm just going to leave it like this, kind of like an S. And then that should be good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this tip part first because it kind of helps with the tangent of the other circles, and then I'm going to finish the outer. So in order to make this, it's 32 inches and 10 inches above. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to extend it. You can just drag it far, far away, and then create another construction line that is 32 inches from that main construction line down the middle that we made. 32. And then I'm going to make this perpendicular just to make sure. I can drag it if you need. and just Q as in construction line. Alright, so this is also 10 inches, just to make sure. Yeah. Alright, so that is pretty much it for this little cross right here. Alright, so what I want to do, I'm going to make this small circle R3, so diameter of 6 inches. Sorry, circle, dimension D, 6. Alright, so now you have that. What you want to do next is we're gonna trim a little bit of, actually don't trim it, my bad, sorry. So what you're gonna do next is create this R38 because it connects the top to the R15 to R3. Yeah, so this can kind of get a little confusing. So pretty much it's R38, so diameter would be 76 in that case. So again, use the tangent because we want to create these natural curves in the hook. So tangent the R38 to this. Yeah, so this is pretty much what you should get. So again, now we're going to trim it again. So trimming. Right, so yeah, so we have those parts now. Now I'm gonna work my way a little bit differently. So as you can see in the middle right here, you get these two other construction lines that are 5 inches apart from this main one that we made. So I'm gonna make those actually to create the R35 because notice how it points out from the first 5 inches away outwards, and then for the other one it's R30, so another 5 inches out. So what I'm gonna do, create a line that is 5 inches away. Yeah, that should be good. And make sure to make it a construction line. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create this R35, so diameter of 70 inches. So again, click circle, 70 inches, dimension. Oh, and this should also be regular object line. So 70. Alright, so that is pretty much what we get with this curve. Now we can pretty much trim the rest of it. So I would trim, let's see, trim that. Don't trim this yet. You can trim these parts, but I would just leave pretty much the whole outer part for now. And you can trim the 30 if you want. So pretty much I kind of get this curve going right here. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to finish this R20 off to connect the tip part. So again, circle, C, and then tangent it. I forgot to mention, but this should be 40 inches in diameter. And I'm going to trim it now. Pretty much all these circles are pretty much tangents to each other right now. So you kind of get these natural arcs. So we're almost done with the arc. We just gotta finish this R30 and R7. So now that we're pretty much done with the tip part, what we want to do next is create the R30. So notice how this is also 5 inches away from this construction line that we just made. So in this case, we want to create another construction line that's 5 inches. Dimension be 5 inches away. Right, so, and then R30, so this case it would be a dimension of 60 inches diameter. So circle again. Make sure you create the cross point dimension and then 60. Alright, so that should be it. So now trim it again. You can trim the this outer one from the 70 diameter. Make sure trim, 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 trim. And lastly, we want to create this R7. So in this case, I'm going to actually bring this construction line up here because it goes directly through this middle of the circle up here, the R4. Because notice, in this case, it's kind of hard to tell, but it actually is a tangent to the kind of middle of this R4. So in this case, circle, so R7, so diameter of 14, change that 14, and then tangent it to, so T, tangent it to the construction line, and also the circle we just made. And it looks like my thing is a little off, right? Oh, I didn't create a dimension. Alright, yeah, so if it makes that blue line, it means that your sketch is not properly constrained. So be sure to make sure you have the right constraint. Otherwise, your sketch can be disoriented and accidentally changed. And it's sometimes going to be a hassle to figure out. So pretty much now we have everything sketched out. So we just trim a few more things. So you can trim that 30 that we just made. So notice that it kind of creates the curve right here. So you can just trim the outer portion of that, and that, keep this, and then cut that as well. I think there's another small one here. You can trim that as well. But once you get that, this should pretty much be your final sketch. And like I said earlier, feel free to pause the video if you missed anything. But pretty much what now we're going to do is actually create the object and the 3D model, pretty much, of the hook. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just start with the top part first. So in this case, I'm actually going to create a revolve. So revolve is kind of like, if you think of a ball and think of half a circle with one axis and you want to create a ball, you can just use one axis and use partially of the half circle to actually create that revolve. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I can show you. So actually one thing to note, I'm going to create a new line, a new object line, because I cannot create a revolve around a construction line. So just make sure to create a new object line, so solid line from the bottom of this to just anywhere up here. I can just do it up here to the top. Alright, so now that should pretty much be your final sketch. So you can check mark that. Alright, so to actually extrude or through the revolve part, so click revolve, new, and then you can select which part you want to revolve around. And then revolve axis, like I mentioned earlier. So this is what it pretty much does. So it pretty much creates material that revolves around this axis. So it kind of creates a circle in that sense. Alright, so that is good, and I'm gonna show my sketch just to make sure. So another thing to note is that with this, you can't actually use a sweep function. Sweep function, a good example of that would be like a paperclip, because if you were to stretch out the whole paperclip to make it flat, it would be the same diameter throughout. For example, like just 0.01 centimeters or something like that. But in this case, because the hook has different diameters, notice how it like gets smaller and then bigger and then smaller. You can't really create a sweep out of that. So what I'm gonna do is just use the regular extrude function, Shift E, and I'm gonna just extrude this face. And it looks like I have an error. Alright, yeah, so if it does that, make sure to, yeah, so what I did, I just clicked this face again. Yeah, so pretty much extrude. So I'm gonna do like 5 inches for now. And if I want this to go towards the other side, I can do a second end position, which pretty much extrudes from both sides. So 5 inches the other side as well. Second error. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention was I'm actually going to create this in 2 different parts, only because it wouldn't, it's kind of hard to get this circular portion at the top. So like I said earlier, make a second end position and shift it towards, I would say maybe 7 inches. You can play around with this as well. It kind of depends. I think maybe we could go 8 if needed. So this pretty much gets the whole hook shape, but if we were to round this, what we can do is fillet. The fillet, and I'm going to hide this first. So fillet pretty much removes the material, makes it curve, conic, or curvature. In this case, I'm going to use actually conic. And what you want to do is you just click one of the faces. So, for example, this one. And if I wanted to do like 0.5, for example, I'm going to create to that. And then you can do the other side as well. And we can create this more. Yeah, so you can, like I said earlier, you can play around with this. I'll make it smaller and smaller. Yeah, but that is pretty much the hook itself. 5 inches, that might be a little too much. Yeah, but that is pretty much, I think that pretty much works. And if you want to change the color, just click on the part down here. Edit appearance. For example, if I wanted to make this like a construction hook, make it orange up here, and then black down at the hook area. Yeah, so that is pretty much the hook tutorial. If you have any suggestions, questions, feel free to let me know, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.